Joining us now is Aviva Chansky-Guttmann. She joins us for the Chamber Chat today. Aviva, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I'm so honored to be here.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about your business, how you got started.
Sure. Well, I'm a social worker by profession and license, and I've been in my field for quite some time. So about 10 to 12 years ago, I transitioned into the specialties I now have, which are imago relationship therapy and energy psychology practices such as emotional freedom technique. It's also called tapping. I'm also a practitioner of something called logosynthesis. It's another energy modality. And if you had to summarize the different parts of what I do, it's really to help people with emotional and other blockages for what's going on in their lives, what they're finding it to be an obstacle. And that also includes in a relationship situation too. So as an imago therapist, I work with people when they're facing difficulties in their relationships that are something that they just can't really understand why it's happening. And also with EFT, the tapping, I work with people on how to really unblock blockages. That's the best way to put it, as a common way to understand it. So I do that work, and before that I did medical social work for a few decades. I've raised 3 adult children now, and one's with special needs. I've done a lot of program development for special needs populations, and I'm very active as a volunteer in the community, reading to young children in the schools the last few years. So I keep my hand in lots of different things.
So maybe we could break down the different fields and talk about a little bit. So the one that intrigues me immediately is the tapping. I think that's the one I've seen on Instagram where people are like tapping here, or is that what that is? Is that what you're talking about?
It's called emotional freedom techniques, and it's with an S at the end because it's more than one way that you tap. It is tapping as a practice of touching for tapping. So what that's based on is, if people have been familiar with acupuncture and Eastern medicine, if you've ever gone to an acupuncturist, you know that they put little needles in different they're called meridian points on the body, where our energy centers have sort of like a exit area. So they're very precisely putting needles. If you've had acupuncture, either of you?
No, but I've seen it.
Okay. So the way we describe EFT is that it's almost considered emotional acupuncture without needles. So when people have blockages about behavior they're not happy with, fears and phobias and traumas that they are stuck with in terms of how they're behaving and reacting, you can tap along meridian points on the body in a very sequential, special way that's very clinical in the way I do it, and help them unblock those blockages. So what that means is, what you've seen on the internet is often just pop culture versions of tapping, and some people have made things up on the internet and social media. So I would caution people, if they see that, to double check in. They can always reach me about that, but there are lots of very reputable ways to find out if something is the authentic type of tapping or just pop culture tapping, I call it.
So you're taking things beyond just the regular marriage counseling or marriage and family therapy.
Well, that's the modality. That's imago relationship therapy is separate from the EFT certification. I have certification as an imago therapist.
So I'm sorry, what's that word, imago?
Imago. Imago is the Latin word for image, and it's based on a modality called imago relationship therapy. And maybe some people are familiar with Harville Hendricks created the theory of imago therapy. And he's notable because he was on Oprah 17 times during the 80s and 90s because she fell in love with this modality of helping people in relationship connect with each other when they were having discord or dysfunction in their relationship. Often people didn't understand what to do next. They often just said, let's just give it up. We're not getting along. Let's just end the relationship. He developed a way of relating along with his wife, Helen LaKelly Hunt, who's also a researcher in relationships, on how to connect through being much more attentive with your partner and also aware of yourself. So the word imago means image, and the reason it's part of the theory's title is that we all have an image of what love looks like from our upbringing, and that plays a very strong part in how we relate to our partners in adulthood. And so the therapy does focus on earlier issues in our lives that impact through our imago of what love looks like. It's an image, subjective, subconscious, and we interact with our closest partners in reference to what we think it is to be close in a relationship based on what we learned. But it also expands into other areas like workplaces, organizations, schools. There's a version of imago called Safe Conversations, so it's the same type of teaching really dialogical skills for connecting and active listening that can be applied to other situations besides just couples. So I'm also trained in safe conversations. It's very much the same but a different name.
Yeah, no, that's very interesting. So I'm sure in addition to individual therapy, you also do group therapy for not only couples but maybe whole families
I've done
or
family,
even companies.
imago therapy, especially during the COVID era where
Right.
people were really
I'm
very
sure.
frustrated being stuck together for long periods in
Yeah.
confined spaces. In fact, that was where the height of the referrals from couples themselves was coming in, because in a small space, smaller than this studio here, people were spending 24/7 together and having no outlet of the workday apart from their partner. So families can be in a dialogical therapy model too. But what I would say is that my practice in general is couples or people in close relationships. It can be parent-child, usually adult-child, adult-parent, because it's a caregiver situation. It can be siblings that are having difficulty with each other, coworkers. So it's not just about couples. So I can work with people in relationships, so that can be couples, it can be more than two at times. But I also teach classes. So I teach classes at adult education centers.
Okay.
Most notably right now, the Bronxville Adult School
Oh,
has
really?
been really supportive of energy psychology work and all the classes that I've asked if I can present there. So the ones that I have done there that are similar to my work are, or they are my work, but with different names, active listening skills. I've taught classes how to be actively attentive to each other, and we do exercises in the classroom to just be actively listening, because that's a skill that most people don't know how to start with unless you teach them. It's something we're not conditioned in our school systems and our upbringings to be actively listening to somebody. So that's a wonderful skill for every situation, work situations, relationships. So I teach that. I've taught tapping at the Bronxville Adult School, and I have taught in other settings too when I didn't live in Westchester, but mostly adult education centers that are open to the community wanting to learn something new. It gets a good response, a good turnout, EFT, tapping, and also active listening. And I'm running a course this coming spring called Emotional GPS at the school.
Okay.
And that will just be about having people understand more internally what's going on with their emotions, how the emotions are signals, because emotions are defined as energy in motion. And most of the time we're just like feeling them but not noticing what they're trying to tell us. So I'm teaching people in that class how to be aware of what their emotions are telling them.
And when is the registration for that class? You said it's coming up.
That one, their spring semester starts after, I think, the beginning of March, so you just have to write to the Bronxville Adult School, and you'll get their catalog online, and you can just click and find classes. And you can just say energy psychology or my name, Aviva, Chansky, Guttmann. It'll come up when I'm teaching.
Okay, if you have a link for that, we can put it on our chamber calendar, and it'll be on our website too, just to let people know when the course is beginning and registration's open.
Oh, okay. I don't know when this will be airing, but there's a class this coming Monday that's scheduled for active listening at the Bronxville Adult School on the 23rd, but I think it might be after you air this episode.
Yeah, it might be. We do a little editing, and we post after the fact. I know you just did one for Valentine's Day at Harpoon Hannah's.
Yeah, the relationship skills involved in connecting, framing it for the purpose of Valentine's Day theme of connecting in relationships. Just talking about the art of connecting really has to do with actively listening, mirroring, validating a partner, and just awareness is the biggest thing. There was just like a sort of thematic experience to do it there, but to talk to people about actively listening, have a few practice exercises, people enjoy that.
So I noticed on your website you also do a blog.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell our viewers what sorts of topics you write on?
Well, the last few are about the holiday season and the stress of the holidays,
Yeah.
gift giving
That's a
as
big one.
something that we're very conditioned to think is a
Yeah.
value in itself for affection. I talked about the value of presence versus presents, and that's in there. I'm still writing one that's not completed yet about, a lot of us when we have pain in our relationships is because we were raised with unavailable people in our lives. So I'm writing a little bit of a discussion about emotional availability or lack of availability from caregivers and how that impacts us in adulthood, which is also related to the imago theory, that we are very much impacted by how we were paid attention to or not paid attention to. So I'm doing a blog about that. And in the past, I've done some for the organizations I belong to. I belong to ACEP, which is ACEP, the Association for Comprehensive Energy Psychology. That's where I'm trained in the tapping. And the Imago International Relationships had a blog I put out there a few years ago about trauma versus relationship trauma, how that acts out when you have a relationship that has traumatic aspects to it. So thank you for mentioning my blogs because I really love to write, and I hope to find more opportunities to
And
do
your
that.
website, just throw it in there right now. Where's that? Can you tell us
It's
that?
my full name. It's www.aviva, A-V-I-V-A, Chansky, C-H-A-N-S-K-Y, Guttmann, G-U-T-T-M-A-N-N, 2 T's and 2 N's, .com.
Okay.
Right, and you're located in.
I'm in Larchmont, but I virtual for most of my therapy, and I teach
Okay.
in person. And I'm
Okay.
always looking for new venues to teach because I really love to teach.
Okay.
And I find that the people that come to classes as adults are coming with such motivation and interest that it becomes a very exciting event to teach them because they want to know and they're there to learn, and they're not being graded, they're being interactive.
Yeah.
So is there something that would transpose that we could use like in a business or corporately, that I guess the relationship or the active listening that you would recommend?
In terms of presenting something to an organization?
Presenting, or like if anybody felt like, their group wasn't getting along, a larger group.
Absolutely.
So that would be something that you would work with?
Absolutely. I'd love to talk to groups. I've done it in the past, Rotary clubs, networking groups, where I talk about the active listening is very well received, whether it's in a short presentation for a lunch and learn or a longer 2-hour class. You're teaching people something that they really never paid attention to before, how to be more in tune with other people they work with, or how to better hear if they're a supervisor, how to hear the people they're supervising. It's all very useful, plus stress reduction of EFT is a very good skill to have because it's self-administered. You can use the tools of EFT in the moment when you're stressed because it downregulates your nervous
So
system.
did you just do one when you tapped your head just for a second?
Yes, that's one of them are meridians. I don't want to do the whole sequence because there's parts of it I teach about why you tap
Right.
and what you say before you tap. But I've taught people the self-care method. That's one reason, that's what they entitle it sometimes at the classes, self-care through tapping or stress reduction through tapping. So I'm always able to teach that to groups.
That's great. Well, thank you very much for coming on, and we will put in our Instagram and YouTube caption your website so people can find you directly. Do you have anything to add, Catherine?
Well, I was going to say if we could just go back for a minute. So now, obviously, you told us in the beginning that you were a social worker and now you've branched out on your own. How do you find being really, I guess, a solopreneur? Correct? That you're just in business on your own. How do you find that? What advice do you have to anybody who would be maybe considering a career shift like yours?
Well, I think the most important part, just like I'm here today, is to be part of networking groups, Chamber of Commerce's. I haven't lived in Westchester that long, just 3 years, but I just joined the Larchmont Chamber, your chamber. I'm going to a dinner for the Rotary tomorrow.
Oh, nice.
So a lot of reaching out to have people know who you are and what you do and what your personality is like. And that helps because people think, oh, she does this or he does that. In my kind of work, that's what's necessary, is to let people know what you do because it's not so self-explanatory. If they just read my definition of myself on the website, they have to know more nuance about it. I think finding the right people to help you with the areas you need help in that you may not have the strengths in, such as like, your financial planner, your tax person, your promotional person for if you need to promote yourself, who's going to design your flyers or your stuff for social media, web designer. I have an excellent web designer who's very, very good at all types of businesses. It ranges from holistic like mine to accounting to all kinds of high-tech ones. So that's another person that's very helpful to me. So all these people that are sort of delegated to do parts I can't do, but I also do things for other people the same way. That's what I think is the key, is the resources and community that you build.
That's great.
That's
and
great.
then what is your social media? If somebody wanted to look for you on, say, Instagram or Facebook, are you on there?
On my business Instagram is just Chansky Guttmann, so that's on my website, easy to find through clicking on the first page. You can find all my social media links. And I'm on LinkedIn. I have a Facebook business page, and I just put out some videos recently with a friend in a conversational way to show people what EFT is and what logosynthesis is, which is another method of energy psychology. And I plan to put one out soon about imagotherapy. So people can click. I have a YouTube channel, and I have all of it's connected on my website.
Oh, that's
Great.
And is there anything else you'd like people to know about you or your business?
I'm looking for more opportunities to teach and get out there because it's really very dynamic to teach people because they want to learn and it's something they can use. They take away a skill. When I've had some evaluations from the adult school teaching, and not just here, but when I've been in other communities I've taught as well, it's I didn't know I could do this for myself, meaning the tapping or stress reduction or how my nervous system is so affected by stress. I didn't even know how much, or the emotional GPS, how I didn't pay enough attention to what was going on within me to help me understand what's going on outside of me. So that's what I'm always looking to do, is to teach more.
Great.
Excellent.
Well, thank you very much, Aviva, for coming on, and we look forward to continuing to follow you and read your blog posts and watch your videos. So,
Thank you.
you know, we do appreciate you coming by, and we hope to have you back
Thank
on
you so
again in the
much.
future.
This was a true pleasure. Thank you so
Yeah.
much for this
Definitely.
opportunity.
Well,
Yeah.
if you've got upcoming events, like I said, people will be able to, if you keep on
Yeah.
checking the chamber calendar, we'll put events up, and we'll think about other connections
Yeah.
that might be good for you, maybe like something with the Boys and Girls Club or things like that, just to help our emerging students, you know, ground themselves and be able to work through their emotions to, you know, succeed.
I just have one more thing. Maybe could I ask one more question?
Sure.
Because I'm very involved with special needs populations. I do have an adult special needs child and other children as well. But I've done so much program development and reaching out for resources for them and advocating. I'm on a board of directors for her organization, Venture Together in Rockland County. So I'm also very much into that population advocating, planning, helping, creating programs. And that's another area of interest for me.
Oh, that's great. You know, we have a
Right.
very active SEPTA
Yeah.
at New Rochelle High School,
Oh.
which is the Special Needs PTA.
Mhm.
And they're very active, and they really are a voice and advocate for the families and the students.
They could use an EFT workshop.
They might,
Yeah.
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah.
So
And even
maybe-
the individuals too, they can learn tapping, or they can have someone help them learn tapping. Those who
Yeah.
need the assistance of someone else to help them. It's very, very adaptable to many people.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
That's
definitely
great.
food for thought, and
Yeah.
connections
Yeah.
should be made.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you so much. It was nice to meet you all here today.
Yes, nice to meet you as well.
Thanks.